Is it sun bright or out on my core? This is the moment you're meant to know.
Well, hello there, sunflowers, and how are you guys today? Well, I'm just here to do a quick recap on Nick Cannon because I am shocked. I am flabbergasted. I am definitely going to have to listen to this Breakfast Club interview in more detail because I think I've learned a little bit more about Nick Cannon than I thought I knew. One thing that has me shocked before I get onto the main reason that we are here today is that I learned that Nick Cannon is diagnosed with NBP, or narcissistic personality disorder. Now, are we shocked? Are you guys shocked? No. Am I shocked? No. But I'm shocked that actually he is open and honest about being diagnosed with a narcissist. Now, that for a narcissist, I know has to be hard because honestly, if you're a narcissist, would you want to admit you're a narcissist? I mean, you probably would if you, because that for you, that probably sounds good because, yeah, that means you're full of yourself and you loved yourself. And you're like, yeah, of course, why would I not be a narcissist? But because narcissism has such a negative connotation in the media to say that you have been clinically diagnosed as a narcissist, so you have some narcissism about you. Why would anybody want to openly be honest about that? It's that kind of like weird thing, double standard. It's one thing to joke about it, but to actually claim it is a completely different thing. But I'm glad to see that Nick Cannon has been open about it, but B, Nick Cannon has been very open about his mental health and focusing on healing himself. That's the real reason why I'm here, because Nick Cannon has had some realizations. He is 46. It's about that time to start having not your midlife crisis, but approaching that time of your life where you've reached about a good portion, a half portion of your life at this point. And now you having to start reflecting and thinking back and looking at how you lived your life and how are you going to continue living your life, or are you going to change how you live your life? And it seems like for the case of Nick Cannon, he is making a change towards how he has been living his life since he's basically been divorced from Mariah Carey. Not my words, his words. That's how he feels. That as though he hasn't fully allowed himself to heal. Everything that has happened post Mariah Carey is trauma response and immature Nick Cannon. A Nick Cannon that's basically saying YOLO, you only live once. Because he basically said, hey, what happens, happens. He was just enjoying life. He was being careless and frivolous. All his words. And some of it was mine. But mostly that's his sentiment, using his words exactly. So because of that, he has, although what is good to know on that note is that even though he feels that way when it comes to the amount of children that he has had, and if he was a bit more healed and a bit more mature, he wouldn't have maybe rushed into situations. He would have thought things a little bit more maturely, or a little bit more thought through. Maybe he would have used protection. I don't know. However, he did say despite all of that, he I have multiple points. Apparently this should have been a presentation. He feels as though every child was made out of love and was in a loving relationship, so therefore there is no regrets made. And then B, he feels as though he's going to make the best of what he has created in this present moment, and rather than whining or complaining about it, he's going to make do with it. He's now realized he's maybe a little bit in more deep than he realized that he ever could wanted to have been. But life circumstances have led him down this path and down this journey. He's insured his testes at this point. So because of that, he's like gone whole all about the reproductive energy. So because of that, it's nice to hear that Nick Cannon has good consideration about the life choices that he has made, but also is mature enough to look back and say that he doesn't regret any of the 12, maybe 13 children that he has. So because of that, that's growth. Because some people really would say if I had to look at back over it, I would not do that. I would do it all differently. Nick Cannon does not feel that way. He just feels as though he wish he would have healed after Mariah Carey, so that way he would have made better life choices moving forward. However, he's not mad at where he is now today. So because of that, that's one great thing. And he also is dedicating more time and more energy into being a better father. And I know this one was a little bit hard for the narcissist in him, because he said it was his ego that was hard for him to overcome with this, because he wants to be such a better father that takes two routes. One, being in the child's life and being an active father, but also working alongside the mother or not. And he hopes that the best way, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, that every baby mama finds a happy and loving relationship, because he wants his children to be raised in a loving environment. And while he may not be in that environment with their mom, to give them that loving environment, he hopes that the mother can find it with some other man, that ego thing. I hope you can still find happiness with another man and create a happy, loving home that my child can thrive in. So that's that matureness. That's that hierarchy. That's that categorization. We made some breakthrough in progress with Nick Cannon in this Breakfast Club interview. Actually, no, Nick Cannon has made breakthrough in his therapy that he is going to, or is seeking a psychiatrist, whatever has gotten him to this point, whether that's going on a spiritual journey, whether that's doing some inner work and some shadow work, whatever it is that has led Nick Cannon to this exact moment, tops off to you, because we are seeing a healed Nick Cannon. Did you guys ever think we would see the day that Nick Cannon is healed? Did we ever see the day that we would hear Nick Cannon be open and honest about his fatherhood and his parenthood throughout the years? What did we ever think we would ever hear Nick Cannon open up about how much the divorce from Mariah Carey truly hurt him? Did we ever think we was going to get some true honesty from Nick Cannon like that? No, we did not. If you guys did, congratulations. But no, I never thought we was going to get that from Nick Cannon. And truly, I honestly have to say it's because of his narcissism. I just felt like he was just too above, that he was just living his own life, that he just didn't care. And he had completely that attitude. He even said it himself in the interview, that maybe if it was like a year or two ago when he was back at the Breakfast Club, the last time he had an interview, he was like, I completely had a completely different attitude than I did today. So if you would have asked me these questions, we would have never had this kind of conversation before today. So props off, good to that's Nick Cannon on top of that. And another thing with Nick Cannon is that he says that I'm looking through my notes. Oh yes, that his thoughts, it was actually the first thing on my list. Nick Cannon's thoughts on monogamy hasn't changed. He was like, even though I have all this epiphany, even though I've done all this thinking, all this inner work, all this healing, I still do not change my mind on how I feel about monogamy. So that tells you that he's not going to go back and change what he has done. He probably still would have had as many children as he may have, maybe with one woman. Maybe he wouldn't have had as many women have his children, but we could have still had 12 children somehow. But like he said, monogamy, or how his thoughts is about monogamy, doesn't fit within the social construct or confine. So because of that, he has stepped outside the box and is living more of a polygamous or an open, free, open love kind of energy, which we see where it has led him down to in a path, but he still feels as though he ended up where he needed to be. And so because of that, he is still grateful for that, and he still feels as though his opinions and views haven't changed. That in his, I can't say his moral compass, but his morals and values are still the same, even though even though he is on a mental health journey. He can still look back at his ethics and his values that he stand on and still say, I still stand by those, even though even though I feel a bit different now, I still stand by what I said, because I'm still going to live by what I said, but from a more matured, healed perspective. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed my recap on Nick Cannon. I sure did. It was really great to hear Nick Cannon really be open and honest. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I sure did. Please give this a thumbs up. I just wanted to briefly come in and talk about it. I didn't want to do any reading about it because honestly, it's kind of beautiful and sacred in a sense that I just don't want to tap into that energy, because it's just something I want to honor and respect, because this is, I mean, celebrities, they put their lives out there for us to do tarot readings, to not judge, but look, maybe relate, maybe learn from their lessons and say, I would never do that. But all that, I just feel as though with this specific topic for Nick Cannon, it's almost like a raw, sensitive, like underbelly that we saw of him that's just like a little bit too vulnerable for me to touch, at least at this moment. Maybe a little bit down the lines, yes, but at this moment I just feel as though it is beautiful, and I want to keep it as its beautiness, and we'll see how his mental health goes moving forward from here. So with that being said, I hope you guys, I mean, honestly, the way he talks, but you know, the actions got to match the words, but the way he's talking really does sound as though he has had a inner change within himself, that I should just do a reading on his mental health, shouldn't I? Let me know down below in the comments if you would like a reading on Nick Cannon and his mental health, and if he's truly has healed himself, or if he's on the journey and process of healing. And that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I sure did. The more I talk about it, the more I'm feeling inspired to do a reading on Nick Cannon. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this recap, talking news about him. And I'm going to definitely check out more on his Breakfast Club. And apparently Dr. Shanann Bryan, that's where he first opened up. That was like earlier this month, at least according to an article, said where he first originally opened up about having MBP before he talked about it on the Breakfast Club. So I just want to get a little bit of deep dive with Nick Cannon with that. And probably with all that deep divingness, I probably will do a reading, even if you guys don't request it. So with that being said, at least give this video many views and share it, so that way I know you guys are interested in Nick Cannon. So that way when I do a reading on him, I know you guys are going to come for that. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Leave your comments down below, and I'll see you sunflowers in the next one. Sunflowers!